Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a quick Conan Exiles Isle of Siptah recap video for the update and news pretty much about Conan Exiles. What's going to be happening with PlayStation 5 and the next gen? How will you be playing Conan Exiles next year? Console answers, more about Siptah and content coming to the Exiles for Xbox and PlayStation, and some of the changes that are happening. It looks like Siptah is going to receive some big updates. We're going to go through all that news, basically recapped from what their developer Q&A had today. It was good, it was filled with answers, not a lot of fluff. Really appreciate the fact that he went out there and answered a lot of the concerns. And yeah, sometimes I feel it's like they're looking into my brain. Because you know what, guys, I really do try and look at all the comments that you give me. And I may not be as big as a forum and I may not be big as a Twitter, but I check loads of stuff when I talk about the game in my videos. So I always try and actually take on board what everything you guys are saying. Like I would say about 80% of the stuff that I see or talk about where it might be an issue or problem, it's all come from you guys, your comments on social media, your comments on videos and forums, and that's what I deliver as what funcom maybe need to fix or work on. So it does seem like they've answered a bunch of stuff here, which I'm really pleased to see, but we've got some big news about Sorcery, and you may be disappointed as well. So make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe for the best in survival games content. Let's go, Conan Exiles Q&A recap, quick one. So I caught a bulk of this Q&A just after it finished, and there's three things that are really big for me. One, how are you going to play Conan Exiles in 2021 on your PS5 or your Xbox Series X or Series S? What's it going to look like? How's it going to improve? Pretty disappointing that so far Funcom have no big plans to upgrade the game. So everything I've seen about next gen consoles are that they're going to upscale a lot of your games. Like the Xbox Series S and X will do a lot with your 360 titles. You'll be able to play them in 4K, even though they're really old. It won't just be forced through 1080p. If you've got a 4K monitor, you'll be able to do it. And I'm guessing the PS5 is going to have the same sort of capabilities. But there are a lot of developers that can actually fine tune their game to be even better. That will actually be running quicker, faster, will have better quality of life improvements, not just with load screens, but you know, really taking advantage of the brand new generation. And I've seen in reports from Microsoft, particularly, not so much on Sony's end, that some developers will have to do that themselves and it won't require too much work. Apparently it's only a case of just going through a few passes, or it might even be Microsoft that will do that for the Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X, so that developers don't even have to do anything and they'll pretty much optimize it for you. But the developers here have said they're not going to actually do anything themselves. They're going to be able to make sure that it's compatible, so you can play Conan Exiles on your PS5, or they're hoping it's backwards compatible, and the same goes for the Xbox, but they're not going to do a big amount of development on it to improve that situation. So at least it stops the worry that we're going to have to pay again for Conan on next generation, which I didn't think was going to happen anyway. It is an online service game, so that would be really rubbish. Like no other game I've seen like that is making you do that. Well, unless you're NBA 2K. So fair enough, they're not making us play again. I don't think they should even contemplate that anyway. But yeah, it's a shame they're not going to actually leverage more of the power of the next gen to improve things for console. Just like the same goes for PC, like with their upgrades to RTX, you know, 380s, 390s, 370s. Why is not ray tracing a considered feature for Conan? I would have thought that might be something they want to enable in the future. But again, it's not something that looks like they're really focusing on. They didn't rule it out completely, by the way. They didn't rule out and never adjusting or optimizing or doing something different with it. But they did just say it's got no plans and it's not really in their remit. They're going to see how the consoles come out. They're going to be focused on Siptah. And then, yeah, if anything will likely happen with that, in my opinion, it might not be until way into next year, if at all. Number two is what's going on with content for console fans. You guys know I was pretty pissed off. It's why I've not really been doing much content on Siptah. I just didn't really feel up to it anymore because it wasn't coming out on Xbox and PS4. It kind of killed the hype for me a little bit. I like seeing you guys' feedback. You guys will watch it more, to be honest, as well, more than PC players will. And I could have just got some easy clicks. But it's been a while. I haven't actually played Conan properly, like since it came free to play. I've done some update videos and guides and stuff. But yeah, it's been a while since I sunk time into it. So I thought I would just put a lot of time into it and not worry about rushing videos out. Anywho, console plans, they've said that lots of the stuff they're trying to do to improve the core game anyway, like Exiles, like with the healing system, the new healing system they got, and some of the other stuff, they are going to try and bring to console sooner. It's my biggest criticism, or one of them, in the last video I did, saying that there's no way they should not be trying to get this stuff done. Yes, we understand siptah can't come out on console yet, fine, whatever. Not coming out till next year, fine. But the changes that are underneath it, like the temperature changes, the healing changes, all the other stuff that's going to be working across Exiles and siptah, of course that should come earlier. You shouldn't have to wait so long. And at this point, console have had the follower updates, and that is it, in like 10 months nearly. So that's a long time to go without any real substantial quality of life adjustments or improvements. So I'm glad to see it. They said they're going to work on it a bit sooner, and likelihood is we will see them improvements and some of the other stuff that could potentially arise from that come to console a bit quicker than waiting until all the way until next year. So fair play to Funcom, and maybe they took my criticism on board, and I'm glad to see that that is going to be a priority. And then third, the big thing that I took away from this was that sorcery. Isle of Siptah is about a mad sorcerer. It's about an ancient sorcerer, a powerful sorcerer. It's got loads of stuff where you're summoning thralls to come and fall down at you. It's a mysterious land with nightmare creatures. You would expect there to be maybe the introduction of sorcery. It's been something that I've maybe probably overhyped a little bit in the past, thinking that it would come, and this is all down to poor Joel saying that one day they'll get sorcery in the game. I've always kind of said that sorcery is already in the game. Like when you think about summoning the undead, I think that's part of sorcery to me. Call it necromancy, but that's part of sorcery. When you think about some of the oils and the poisons, that's kind of like sorcery to me, being able to magic, you know, sort of afflictions on people. The only thing it doesn't have is firing bolts of lightning at people. That's what I think most people, and that's kind of just magic to me. You know, dark magic is dark sorcery. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I'm going to just read out my comment I put. Funcom, Siptah, the home of a dangerous sorcerer. Also Funcom, we want sorcery to be amazing. Also Funcom, no sorcery for Siptah. Yep, that's right. They confirmed they're not going to be adding any sorcery at all. Like, there's nothing coming in terms of like magic spells, summonings, or anything like that. It's just, no, it's not going to be there. How can you have a piece of DLC that is so focused in lore and story around a magic sorcerer, but you as an exile cannot do any sorcery yourself? It is a bit stupid. They did outline that they've got 3 big updates coming to Siptah, and the first one's going to be about balancing, about how you maybe possibly get thralls and stuff like that. And it's really going to be just about that focus. And then they've got 2 more big updates coming. They're going to expand Siptah. They're going to add more to the map, surrounding areas. It looks like they're going to add more land, although they were cautious in saying they can't go too mad with the biome diversity. You might not find a snow biome or a complete desert biome, because the island of Siptah is meant to be like near the equator, if it was kind of based in the real world, because that's what Conan Exiles really is. It is actually based more or less on the real world. So, you know, when they talk about Hyboria, I think that's in the north, if my memory serves me right. It's proper in the north. Again, I could have this wrong. Where Conan's from, it's in the cold, so that is like Norway, Sweden, them kind of areas. So they will add some new biomes, but it may be a little bit more different. I'm hoping it'll go really fantastical. Make a huge mushroom forest. Make a huge willow weepy swamp area that's just filled with nothing but water and willow branches and gnarled trees and all kinds of stuff like that. Do kind of biomes like that. The map definitely needs it. I've been running around Siptah a bit, and it's a lot of the areas are just kind of repeated. There's not a lot of diversity there at all. Like, you know, it is a different experience. Anyway, they spoke about that. They said they're going to have 3 updates coming. No further plans in terms of like release date. You know, it's just next year still. So that's not going to change. Now, I've focused on the 3 sort of negatives there. There are some really good wins. 1, server transfers. They've confirmed that they're going to work on it, that you'll be able to take your character from server to server. Conan gets really stale because you're on your official server, you've become the alpha, and then no one really rises up against you. Or you'll get so bored, you'll do nothing but go and harass the noobs on the beach, or the desert, as it's technically a desert. Whereas Ark and other games, even DayZ, you can transfer your character from server to server, and although it can lead to problems like big, huge, mega alpha tribes, because Conan's so much smaller with only 10 in per clan, I think it could work really well if you go across to other servers. So that is something they're going to be adding on. That to me is a massive win. That will revitalise the official networks, which have been pretty dead for a while. So I think that's a great move. Some other wins, but long distance. They said they're looking at possibly adding server queues, but they did say that would come not right now. They're not working on it yet, but it is something they're hoping to come to in the future. They also spoke about fine-tuning the thrall stuff. Again, some of this stuff I don't think it's worth going over too much detail. It is early access. They're going to change and mix it up quite a lot. But some of the things that you'll probably be interested in are the thrall placements. Like basically, how do you stop you as a solo player not being able to get any thralls because you keep getting gangbanged every time you go and try and get some thralls, or whether or not you use a surge. It is very much geared towards bigger clans at the moment. And so they're looking at ways to address that. They're looking at that kind of thing. They don't necessarily want to go to static spawns. That's the problem with the Exile lands. It becomes really boring. Like, you know exactly where to go and get that tier 3 armor, that tier 2 fighter, because they're always in the same spot more or less. So keeping it fresh. I like the spawn system. I like the siptah system. I think they should add that to the Exile lands. Make the storm do the job it was almost meant to do originally. It was meant to bring scary, horrible little creatures you see in the trailer. Well, why not have the storm now bring a little selection of thralls every now and then? That could be something good. I mean, we've got the purge system, and that's really what that's meant to be doing as well is. But what if the storm brought just some random thralls? But they are looking at balancing. They're not saying no to making it a bit better for solo players. They're looking at ways to improve that, especially like the starter surge, which pretty much brings your thralls with you. And that's something they're going to focus on. Also going to focus big on the healing aspects. I guess they've taken a lot of flack for the changes in healing. Basically, you're not going to be spamming food anymore. You're not going to be eating 50 pieces of exquisite meat to get your health back up. You can't just use exclusively aloe wraps. The method is that potions are what you're going to be using in quick combat. When you're out of combat, you'll be using your wraps, and food is kind of just not doing much at the moment. So they're looking at ways to make food a part of the game again, and obviously they're still balancing the other two. They've spoken about maybe having an interrupt button, which is desperately needed. That's my only problem. I don't mind the fact they've made healing a little bit harder, and you've got to think a bit more about combat. They've just got to have a way that you can interrupt it. The amount of times I see a tiger running towards me, you know what, in real life you would stop bandaging your foot and you would run or get your sword out to fight a tiger about to attack you. So as long as they add that to it, I've got no problems with the healing system at the moment. I think it stops spammers, it stops people from having 200 million healing items in their inventory now that they all weigh a bit heavier, and I think it adds a little bit more to actually creating a character or a class. And that's what they allude to as well. That's what they've said. They want it to be a choice about what kind of healing items you bring. They did also allude to the fact that when they do add new content, maybe a new biome or a new landmass, it would have new weapons. And a lot of people seem to be saying, "Where's Crumb? Where's my Crumb Lord? I want some Crumb." That's pretty much what I say every time I jump into Conan. Where's the god of steel that runs through the ground? I want him to give me some goodies. So they may add some more features like that in the future. They're also looking at surge placements, basically blocking spawns or wild surges blocking spawns and stuff like that, where people might be building and getting used to it and stuff. So again, that's all going to be part of it. They also spoke the fact that servers have now got no caps in them. You can have up to 200 players on a server if you rent one yourself. Not the official network, but don't be too surprised if you come across a server that can hold up to 200 people. That seems a bit bonkers. Always Exile lands felt just a bit too small for that. But that sounds also pretty good. Maybe the technology they've been working on, the server stuff they've been working on, could hopefully support that even better in the future. They've got no plans for crossplay. When they introduced the launcher, I thought it'd be the big step towards getting crossplay enabled between PC and console. They are looking at crossplay, but it was always designed to be around Epic and Steam. It's never going to be Xbox and PlayStation. I still think they need to look into this. Like, it would help them in the future with June and stuff like that, and the next gen. Maybe it's all just a bit too early. But yeah, for sure, there would be a great thing if they could pull it off before other games like Ark or DayZ. Can you imagine if Conan done crossplay properly? It'd be so cool. But yeah, they flatly outruled it. They just said that if it comes to Epic pretty much in the future, it will be crossplay enabled servers between Epic and Steam, because they pretty much run off the same game. They also reiterated that stuff they're working on is going to hopefully benefit both, and that Exile Lands isn't going to stop receiving content, which makes me wonder why they're not going to increase the capabilities of the game for the next generation. It just baffles me a little bit. But anyway, they're going to be focused on both. But right now, the progress is going to be on siptah mainly, and the experience that you get in there. But it's not actually being actively developed at the moment for Exile Lands. It's all just on siptah. But of course, they don't consider Exile Lands complete. Although they do know about the problems with Xbox. Apparently since the last update there's been massive issues with the game, pretty much crashing and just generally not being great. So they are looking into that and they're hopefully going to have a hotfix for that possibly a bit sooner than any of the other content for consoles. They also spoke briefly about the fact that their thralls maybe one day could potentially be farmers. Yep, it's what you all want, to get your sexy thrall, your dancer, out in the field, ploughing the plough. Apparently that could be something of a big feature in the future, but no guarantees. Like, he didn't really say it was going to be a definite thing, but he said if that were to come, it'd be part of a bigger feature. Also as well, they spoke about customizations. You will now finally be able to customize your character again. But it looks like you won't be able to change your sex. God, misgendering here, Funcom, you're not doing well. And you might not be able to change your race. You'll be able to change your features and maybe the look and old and put makeup on, different makeups or whatever it was. But you won't necessarily be able to change your race nor your gender. They also spoke that they're still looking into why you can't dye saddles and horse saddles and rhino saddles and stuff like that. That's been something that's been on the cards for ages. I really like Alex because he just chats nonsense. He says what, you know, he'd like to put in the game, and that might not be for a while. And I think maybe the others will probably be like, Alex, shut up. Just say we don't know for sure. But another thing they did talk about was being able to have more cosmetic items, but with the armor and the stats from a different type of armor. Transmorphication, that's the kind of thing you could expect. Or have more slots that you could beautify yourself, like wearing a cloak or having different types of, headgear or something else, instead of it always just being that one armor set. You might love that one particular Lords of the Hide Helma armor set or whatever the hell, but you can't actually wear any other armor because you love the stats so much on that one. I think that would probably break the game quite substantially. When you come up across a player, you get to recognise what armour they've got, and if you see they're wearing something different, it would throw off maybe how you would take on that dude. So I don't think that would work particularly well, unless they make it so it only looks different for you and everyone else it still looks like just the same armour. That would be okay, but definitely not if it showed it to the other players. You'd have too many people. I think it would affect PvP too much. They did also say they're going to add more placements, like placeables, with the siptah DLC as well, because they realised there isn't as much as compared to some of the other ones. They also carried on the commitment that they're looking at having more than one companion to follow you around. It could be in the future as another big feature. They also said that mod support for things like Pippi won't be integrated into the main game. They're not suddenly going to make a Pippi something official. They said that that nice fog you see on siptah, the volumetric fog and maybe lighting, won't necessarily be making it to the Exile lands, and I guess that's part of the upgrading for the next generation. It doesn't look like that's going to be something on their cards because it just takes up so much memory. So overall, that's pretty much it. I think it was a good Q&A, lots of good stuff there. And even if it's not good news, at least they're actually being upfront and saying what's going on. And at least they're giving us what to expect going forward. And I think that's probably the clearest picture we've had for a long time about where Conan is going to be in maybe 6 months' time. The DLC will be out. You will be able to play it. You'll be playing it on your PS4, your Xbox One. And if you want to play it on the next generation, you can. But it may not necessarily have all the upgrades. Certainly not from on behalf of Funcoms. It's more necessarily going to be just about what the new grade systems will actually offer in upscaling. Maybe that's not a big deal to some people, but I guess it's the same for PC players with all the new RTX cards coming out, and who knows, there might even have been talk possibly one day they might add the RTX lighting. Hope this has been a little bit shorter for you than watching the whole hour and 10 minutes. There probably will be a few things I missed, but I consider that the bulk of the main stuff. I'll be back with any more details about Conan, and don't worry, I am working on content, but like I said, it's going to be a bit more slower paced, and I'm just taking a real good chance to get back into Conan before I actually release any content. I want to make sure that I'm doing guides that are really beneficial and aren't just changing because it's early access and they've changed the system already. That's what they did with Rhinos recently, so I don't want to make that same mistake. For the best in survival games news, make sure you locked onto me, and I'll see you ratbags for another video soon.